They have to hear you. I've got to get you guys a mic up here.
Okay. So my audience is here, so how do you want to do this? Am I live already?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
No, just go. No, I'm teasing. Okay, go ahead, Vesna. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, sure. My name is Vesna. I'm from Bosnia originally. I came up here from Nashville, Tennessee to come to the psychic fair as well as do guest readings and do this talk for you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm very excited to be here. Everyone I've met has been fantastic. Amazing energy. I'm looking forward to coming back. If you guys need information, you can find me on Facebook. I'm under Vesna Adaeze, Adeaze, or Nashville Psychics and Readers.com.
Okay, I was going to say, now, do you have your own personal website?
Not yet. It's
okay.
Up, but the Nashville Psychic and Readers has my own page to it.
Okay.
As well. So you just put my name on there and it has all my contact info.
Do you have any other ways they can contact you? Don't drop your phone number because you're going to get some crazy stuff going on there. But do you have an email?
Stuff coming in. Yes, my email is lady, L-A-D-Y, V as in Victor, 712@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. By the way, you already have 2 people watching. They haven't commented yet. They're just watching you.
Don't be scared. I don't bite. Not over the phone.
I was going to say she does, but, you know, hey. Okay. All right. And so you're going to be talking a little bit with us about Gypsy Magic.
Gypsy Magic, yes. So it's going to be kind of like a free talk. I want to get you guys the information that you want to get. So we have some audience here. Any kind of questions that you guys have, whether that's about protection, hexes, curses, love spells, healing, whatever it is that you want, feel free to ask me.
Now, Vesna is also an expert in necromancy, and that is something I would like. Ooh, Carrie Williams. She just commented really big eyeballs. Okay, yeah. Hi.
Leave it to professionals, please. It's forewarning.
At some point, I would love to talk to you about that, and then also, hey guys, I would also love to interview you for my blog and podcast.
Oh my, okay.
Okay.
So yes, the information about that I will share publicly is going to be a little bit more limited. On the blog, I will probably divulge more. But yeah, let's just go with the flow and see. Welcome to our new people. Hi guys. Hey, I'm so excited.
All right.
I'm so happy to have people here. I talk much better in front of people than just to a blank space. So.
Tell us a little bit about the traditions of Gypsy Magic.
Okay, so again, that's kind of like really broad. So
I know.
I'm from Bosnia originally. I have the Romani lineage. I have been in the United States since 2000. So I grew up with it. I learned everything I know from my great-grandparents and my grandparents. And some of them have passed, but they're all in the hundreds. So they must have done something right, living right, to be getting that old. So we basically, the big thing that we always focus on is protection because of the work that we do. A lot of it is dark, but also because of the connotation of how people think about gypsies, we always make sure we protect ourselves and our homes, as well from other spirits and from other people. So the biggest thing that we do around the house, like we have salt that you guys use here as well in the United States. But what we do with salt is I like to use Himalayan salt or really coarse sea salt, and I put it in the corners of the house in each room. And then you can also use it and mix it with urine and put it on the property, in the 4 corners of the property to kind of create like a dome-like.
Why urine?
Why urine? Body fluids. I don't know, they're always used to, I think it's because of it connects you to the property.
Okay. Now, Carrie says hi and a winky face, and Nicole Ray says hello. Thank you for sharing.
You're so welcome.
4 people watching.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Also, some of you might be familiar with cascarilla, which is like eggshell powder. Do you guys use that here? No? Okay. So I'm also, I do santeria work as well. But the eggshell powder goes into the gypsy stuff as well, and it's basically white eggshells that are crushed up into a really fine powder. And you put it on the threshold of your door, and you can put it in corners of your home. You can put it, like when I do any kind of magical work, I surround my bed with it, or my son's bed. It just blocks out anything negative from entering in. It creates a barrier.
Why eggshell powder? Oh, and Antoinette says hello.
Hello, Antoinette. Why eggshell powder? I honestly don't know. You know, some of these things I just learn, and I listen to the spirits. I'm like, yes. I learned a long time ago not to go against their wishes. So I don't ask questions. I just do. I just know that does help significantly.
Gotcha.
When we do dark magic as well, we do coffee grounds first, and then surround it by eggshell powder.
Really?
So yes. Some of these things, like I don't know if some of them cross over into American traditions as well. So you may hear some similarities that I do hear that you guys do as well.
That's wonderful. Okay.
Let's see. So something else interesting that we do is for protection garlic, like a clove of garlic, and you cut a cross into it, like the whole vampire thing. And you, I really don't know what the history is behind it other than that the cross, it's almost like a crossroads. You stop things from coming in, you put it above the threshold of your door.
Okay.
It has worked. I mean, everything I've done so far has kept me alive, so I would say that it's working perfectly fine. And usually, once it's time to change it, it falls off by itself and you just replace it.
Okay. And you've had some pretty wild experiences from the brief discussion I've had with you. You've had some pretty crazy ones.
I have. So
okay.
Which one do I want to start with? Okay, so when I had touched on some of the experiences with the necromancy, I work with, necromancy, okay. I'll break that down. I think a lot of people probably don't know. I'm not going to go, like I said, into some of the more...
Just tell them what it is.
...things, but, the surface of it. Necromancy is basically speaking to spirits. It can be spirits from people that have been deceased, deities, which is like gods and goddesses, or other spirits that are not human per se, or they haven't been human. So it's just working with those on using them to heal other people, using them to remove other spirits, just using them to do work for you, or communicating with them, or helping them cross over, depending on what the situation is. So I work with that as well. There was an incident, I want to say probably about 2 years ago, when I first got into this, and I've always been very comfortable with death and dealing with spirits, and I hear them, I smell them, I see them. It just depends on what kind of spirit it is and how they want to communicate with me. I've spent countless nights in cemeteries. So I received a book that's rather old, an original transcript, and I was warned not to read it out loud. And of course, me being who I am, I got this. I've been doing this for years. So I started speaking everything out loud. Lo and behold, I had these, kid you not, 10-foot spirits had to be hunched over in my home, sitting in my room, and my son gets possessed. And possessed to a level of, he was like about 7 at the time, eyes like darker, and like he had scratches going from the back, like his back, where he can't touch it. There's nothing there. I don't have animals that would do this to him. Going from one side of his back to the bottom. He's a very docile child. He was extremely angry, just a completely different human.
Oh,
right?
Jesus.
And I had protection like the Lakers, like the ones that I have here. I had those on, and they broke, which is generally a sign that something is going on. But I was in denial because I was so overconfident, essentially, in who I am. And, just it gives you, working with some of these darker spirits really gives you a sense of being a super human, so to speak, like nothing can touch you. Mm-hmm. And, that's a little bit scary because you can really do damage to yourself and others if you're not careful. So, my godfather called me. I didn't know this man at this time. He reached out to me, spirits told him to reach out to me, and he was like, what are you dealing with? Like, you're dealing with death. And he described this situation with my son. Turns out that the demons that I was working with, that's what they are essentially, that I had called in, didn't bother me, but went into my child. And a lot of times, that's what those spirits do. You can't really control them, you can't barter with them if you're not experienced, or you have to be extremely specific in things. And at that time, I wasn't well-versed enough to be able to protect myself and my son properly. So they were dealing with my son, and they wanted like his soul, his spirit, everything. And I had to use another spirit to basically get this spirit out of him. And it took me a week to get it done. And he had gone, it was so crazy, like he had gone to school one morning, and I had done this work in the house without him being there, and I put a cross above his closet, because a lot of spirits, they hide into closets and different spaces like that. And
why?
Honestly, don't know.
Okay.
That's where I've always found them.
Okay.
So when they're not in my room, like I know they're in my attic, I know certain places where they are, well, I always find them. So this particular one was also in his closet, and I put the cross above his closet door. He comes home from school. The cross was this small. The other work was already done. He comes in and beelines for his closet, and he said, "Take that down." And I mean, he didn't know what was going on. Completely, like I had to take him out of that room. I had to keep him in my room. It was a lot of work that I'm not going to discuss even to take that out of him. So it's just there's things that you can do that
But
mess you up if you're not.
it can be done. It can be solved.
Everything can be solved.
Good. Okay.
Absolutely, everything can be solved. This was just an example of me being naive in knowing more than I knew. Like, I jumped into the deep end
Yeah.
without being properly trained in dealing with these things. And I say that because a lot of people find out different things. They're internet witches and things, you know. So you learn different things online and you think you know what you're doing. And then there's certain books that are out that have knowledge in there that is partially true. So you get a hold of a little bit of truth and you run with it and you can cause damage. And if you're not ready to recognize the signs, it can destroy your family already without you even realizing it.
Right.
It can cause spirits of depression. I've had spirits of like suicide where I'm just driving and I want to just ram my car into a wall for no reason. Everything's fine in my life. But those spirits just come over you, and if you don't recognize that on what it is, for what it is, then you don't know how to cleanse yourself properly or what spirits to use to remove those from you. And it can be detrimental.
Now, also Marlene says hi, and Emily is watching. But you also teach classes on these things and how to protect yourself.
Yes. So
Okay.
I teach classes. The readings are a very small portion of what I do.
Right.
Majority of what I do is healing work. I do root work for people, everything from legal cases, love cases, healing work.
What is root work?
What kind of work is it?
No, what is root work?
What is root work?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
I just assume that certain things people just know. So root work is, we use it in the South almost like hoodoo, voodoo, that kind of thing. I just generalize everything I do into root work because for people that's a little bit easier to comprehend. I utilize spirits. I use Santeria when I need to. I use it depends on what I'm working with, what's going to be best for the particular situation of that person. I consult my oracles every time before I do any kind of work to see, okay, how will this transpire if I use this type of work? For example, a cow's tongue, will that really work for this court case? Or should I petition a particular spirit to intercede? I always petition the oracles to tell me exactly how the results will be. One little thing can change the whole outcome.
Right.
So that's pretty much what I do. And I also do consultations and teachings on when people get started first in magic, or even if they're deeper into it, when they're wanting to learn.
Yeah.
So I always start with protection, cleanses on how to protect your home, how to protect yourself, how to properly bathe before you start talking to spirits. And when you're dealing with spirits, there's certain herbs and things you have to have around you to make sure that you don't get sick or that you don't attach certain things to yourself.
Okay.
So, and I customize plans based on whatever people need, you know. And if I don't know something, I'll tell you, you know what, I don't know. I won't teach you that. I'll teach you whatever I do know.
Okay.
So.
All right. Any good, if people are dealing with spirits, any good plants that you can recommend right off the bat?
Bone set is like the first herb that I think of.
Really?
Yes, that's what I use.
Drink it, have it around, or bathe in it, or what?
All three, really.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So, yes, I use bone set because that's when I used to get like flu-like symptoms a lot. So when you deal with a lot of spirits, especially when spirits want to talk to you, and some of you have seen me yesterday, I'm like, okay, come on, man, leave me alone, I'm talking here.
Yeah.
You know, they start communicating with you, and some of them really want to come through you to deliver their message. This keeps you from getting sick. So bone set protects you from getting those flu-like symptoms. You can be out for days sometimes if the wrong spirits attach themselves to you.
Okay.
And sometimes herbal baths are not enough. So, you know, sometimes you have to go another route with it where...
Does that help with, like, emotional, like, illnesses as well? Like, your depression?
No.
That
Bone set does
it's
not
more
help
like
with that.
this, like, illness is, like, within your, like you said, flu or...
Yeah, well, the illnesses as far as the flu-like symptoms, this is just, like, from bad spirits. When you get the depression thing from spirits, that's what you're referencing. I create, depending on what kind of spirits you have, there's certain cleansers that you can use.
Okay.
There's a number of herbs, like hyssop is like one of my favorites that I use. So there's just a blend that I'll put together depending on it. And if you catch it early enough, that bath is enough. Otherwise, you have to sometimes go deeper where you have to do other things.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what about a salt bath?
That has never just been by itself enough.
Okay. All right.
For me, I mean, I've gone to length. Certain ones, I've had one bath I had to fix, and this is just on the spirits telling me what to use. A lot of cemetery pieces.
Oh my.
A lot of, like, it smelled literally like dead fish and blue cheese. It was disgusting.
Oh.
But it was literally the only thing that would remove that war spirit I had on me.
Oh wow.
From me.
Okay.
And you, like, had to put it in your tub and just really literally bathe in it for quite some time.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I tell people, catch things as early as you can.
Yeah.
Because the longer it dwells, the stronger it is.
Okay.
So, sometimes it takes more things, eating fish brains and all kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay.
To replace that ashe,
Oh.
So, yeah.
Ashe. What is that?
Like the spirit.
Okay. Neat. Okay.
Yep. What else, guys? So I don't have to pull my book out. What do you want to know?
I just have a personal question. Were you always, from the day you were born or when you were 10, were you always, into and attracted to the gypsy lifestyle? Or were you more, in the religious home setting base and got to talk to your grandparents? Or, how did that go?
Okay, so I'll rephrase your question. I know what you're trying to say.
Okay.
Because gypsy lifestyle is it's not something you choose. It's just who you are.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So my parents were more so religious than my great grandparents and the older generations. So they wanted to kind of fit into the mold of the public, so to speak, because it was shunned. Anybody that heard the gypsy, they were like, you're a trickster, you're a thief, you're gonna put magic on me. Just like here, when, in a lot of places here, people say, oh, that voodoo witch, she's gonna do bad stuff to me. Just because you are spiritual doesn't mean I'm gonna hex you. I don't have that kind of energy for you. I'm putting my energy into real things. Okay? Let me just put that little side note out. I'm not worried about you. If I wanted you out of my life, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So people have that wrong idea on what that is and what it entails. But yes, I've learned how to read beans. I used to actually read coffee grounds, so I have to get back into that. A lot of these things are like riding a bike. You don't use it for a while, you have to get back into reading it. It's like tea leaf readings.
Right.
Similar to that, and palmistry and all those things. Yeah, so the gypsy thing has always been real for me. My parents told me to my mom, I started having visions when I was 8. And literally things would speed up and happen in front of me. And I told her about it because I used to get intense headaches, right after you see things, you just get really intense headaches. And she's like, don't tell anybody, they're gonna think you're crazy, you're gonna end up in one of those hospitals. So I just kind of kept it to myself for a long time. And I've done healing work and readings privately for my friends and stuff, and it wasn't until my son's father got murdered that I actually came out and said, okay, I'll do this for the public. Because he came back, he's one of my main people that I work with now. He came back to help me a lot, and it centered me, and it kind of opened me up to not care what people think. And it opened up a whole new power for me. I used to be a manager in a corporate world, corporate, and then the spirits were said, no, you're just doing this now.
Oh.
And that was probably the reaction I had every day, several times a day. I'm like, wait a minute, are you guys sure? I called my sister witch, and I'm like, hey, can you look for this? They're telling me I'm supposed to do this. It's got to be wrong. I'm skewed. Yeah. Something's wrong. They kept telling me that's all you're doing. My job was gone.
Yeah.
That corporation closed. Nothing else would open up. Everything I'm doing now is just with my partner and his businesses and the spiritual work. They said, this is what you're going to do full time. And it was scary because I've been accustomed to making $80,000, $100,000 consistently with a corporate job.
Yeah.
I have a degree in forensic psychology. This is what I do. And then they're like, no, you're actually going to do spiritual work for people. And it was a lot of questioning of myself, how are people going to receive this? Am I really as good as they say that I am? Am I really helping people? And those doubts are normal for anybody entering into the spiritual world. Yeah. Because, you doubt yourself in other things, why not in this, right? And it's usually when I get testimonials, and I have a lot of them, and people tell me, you've really helped me, and you've changed this, and I help people out of sticky situations in court, or whatever the case may be, or bring love back together, then I'm like, okay, I made a difference. And that's what it's about to me. When I can say, that's what lives on forever, that's the legacy, when you can actually make a difference in someone else's life, versus just doing a regular thing, So.
Nicole Ray asks, what is the best way to close your tarot cards? To shut down, she said just close your tarot cards. I assume it means to shut off any spirits that might be around them that have come in to answer your questions or anything.
What I do after every reading, whether it's my tarot or oracle cards, I always cleanse the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You can cleanse it a number of ways. The only thing I brought with me now It's just Florida water, my Van oil. I mean, that's just a few of the things. The dragon's blood is one of my favorites. So I usually try to sage it, cleanse it with dragon's blood and things like that. So you just cleanse it and close it up and cover it. Usually I cover my cards for a period of time. And that's it. The biggest thing that I've learned, even teaching other people getting into this, I'm not someone you have fear, which is a terrible thing. You should have fear. It's healthy, okay? You should have some fear.
Okay.
But a lot of people go into overthinking things. So yes, there's rules and regulations, but don't overthink it to a point where it limits you in being who you are and doing what you do. You know what I mean? Like the tarot cards and the oracle cards or whatever, however you read it, there are rules on how you read it, but if you're really in tune, it's just going to tell you a story. That's all it is. It's just a door to tell you what's going on.
Okay.
So just go with the flow and trust yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Okay?
You're up to 5 people watching.
Oh, all right, guys. What's going on? What you got? No. Oh no, like another, I guess, little interesting tidbit that I find interesting. And you guys can ask me like more questions, like if you find this video later or whatever, if you decide to email me, I can answer more questions. But I found that back in the history of like the whole Gypsy and Sumerian thing, that love magic used to be used as a curse, actually. And love wasn't something that was like, oh, you know, that's lovely, yay, people are happy. No, it was used as a curse because it distracted people. So instead of you focusing on war or money or whatever it is that's at hand, you take that person's focus and bind it to someone. So that's why it was used as, yeah, it used to be categorized as black magic. Yep. Yep.
And do you work with crystals and stones also?
I used to work a lot more with it, very limitedly.
Yeah. And when you did, what was your way of cleansing and clearing? And
Of the stones?
Yeah. Or did you, because I know some people don't believe in cleaning or cleansing their stones. Some people do.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No judgment.
So,
Personal opinions, but no judgment. No, I definitely, I mean, I cleanse them, and it depends on the stones, and like anything else, the kind of the spirits will guide you on how to do it. You can use like salt water. I love to like bury my crystals, like full moons and eclipses are super strong. I love to charge my crystals in that. Some people prefer sunshine, and they just put it out in the sun. I'm too dark for that. So it depends on whatever rocks your boat, you know, so.
okay.
Yeah, there's however you need to do it. It's just cleanse it before you put on new stuff. You know, it's always.
Megan, I missed the beginning of this. Does she connect with the other side for people to talk to loved ones that have passed? So in other words, are you a psychic medium, my dear?
I wouldn't categorize myself as a psychic medium. Spirits just come to me and talk to me. It's not something where I'm like, I can really control it yet. Where I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to your grandma. Whoever wants to talk, unfortunately, they just come through me and talk. Sometimes it's like, okay, I wasn't ready for this, but it just happens.
Okay.
So a lot of times it's people that have, it's been a lot of like violent deaths kind of thing. Like usually people that have violently passed always come through to me and want to have a discussion.
Okay.
Yep. So what else? Y'all are so shy. Come on, I know there's something that y'all want to know. Okay, so if you guys ever go like cemeteries or any places like that, that you know there's deceased people, make sure when you leave that you throw pennies, some type of payment, because you're infringing on their space. So that kind of also helps on carrying spirits with you when you leave.
Really? That's interesting.
I thought that was common knowledge too, see?
No, that's definitely not. No.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, like I said, I've spent countless nights in the cemetery. That's like my thing, but I don't even know why. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm sitting at home in my sanctuary, but to me, that's like my sanctuary.
Is that
Megan
where
says thank you.
You're very welcome.
Is that like, do you do a lot of helping the other spirits pass on, or why do you choose to make that like your...
My sanctuary?
Yeah.
It's not really necessarily that I'm helping people pass on. I work with a lot of Gede spirits also, which is more of the Haitian side, like the Baron Samedi.
Okay.
It's a lot of cemetery spirits, and I use a lot of restless spirits to do a lot of the work for me because they're quick. They want to eat, like I feed them specifically, and the results are very fast. So restless spirits are spirits that have deceased violently. They're also called anima sola, intranquil spirits. So anybody that has like committed suicide, that got killed, that just died suddenly.
Are they commonly ones that want your help, or are they just wanting to talk to you?
There's very few, like the ones that want my help, they'll come to me, but me going to the cemetery is not to help anybody. Me going to the cemetery is to get what I need.
What is it that you
Throw pennies on the ground, throw pennies where?
Crossroads. It's always at the crossroads. Preferably if you have a legit like 4-way crossroad.
Okay.
I do that. Usually I do like 3, 6, or 21 somewhere. Those numbers usually talk to me, so
Okay.
I'll leave that.
Does thanking them out loud at the cemetery mean as much to them as throwing pennies? No. Okay. Wow. More money, more money. Alrighty.
It's legitimately just as carnal as this world.
Wow.
Like, so yeah, I would not dare. Like, if I can get home last week, I came home and it was again 3 days, no sleep. And the first thing I did as soon as I got home, here's your meat, here's your liquor, here's your cigars. Like, they get fed first before I do anything else, because if they don't get what they want, it's destruction zone. They don't care, because they're doing so much for me and I'm working with them so much that they expect their payments. And it's the same thing, like if you leave like an offering, let's say you do a work and you're done with the work and you dispose of the work, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You're familiar with that? I'm not sure if you guys are. So there's remnants of the work that's left. If it's not something that can be consumed by animals, there's certain places that you would leave it. So wherever you leave those offerings, whether that's a cemetery, a creek, a dead tree, whatever the case may be, you always leave money with it, or cigars or liquor, something for that particular spirit to say, okay, I'll accept whatever you're leaving here, because this is my ground. So it's all about respecting their property as well.
That's interesting. Okay.
How is the I guess you could say attitude of the spirits that contact you? Like, are you ever contacted by a spirit that's very aggressive, like?
Yeah, all the time.
And how do you handle that?
It's just, I used to be terrified of it initially, but now it's just, I talk to them like I talk to you. Like, okay, you need to check yourself. If you want my help, we need to have a discussion, So some of them are like tricksters, like, and they'll just run and like jump at you. Like, and it's, like, okay, I was doing something here. It's not okay for you to act like that. Like, you really can have that dialogue. They know who's scared of them, and they'll mess with those people more. But if you're not scared of them, there's a respect line. So they'll either respect you and allow you to help them, or they'll come in and work with you. So
it's like boundaries.
There's boundaries. You have to set those boundaries. The time that they get upset is if they feel disrespected. So if you're choosing to work with someone like on a consistent basis, and it's not just like a spirit passing through where you're having like a talk with them, then it's really important to have, ground rules set.
Okay. Christina, I have some rocks that supposedly came from Stonehenge, but trying to get them back to the original owner, I've heard anything from that land is cursed. What can I do after they're gone?
Okay, can you repeat?
Sure. Christina Whitley, I have some rocks that supposedly came from Stonehenge. Been trying to get them back to the original owner. I've heard anything from that land is cursed. What can I do after they're gone?
After they're gone, like the owners? Is that what she's referencing?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm thinking.
After the rocks are gone? If she takes, I'm assuming there's a place around here because it does not sound familiar to me.
Stonehenge, England. Stonehenge.
Okay. So I'm too foreign, like I have no idea, but that's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so she takes it, wherever she takes it back to, if she's able to take it back to wherever they belong,
Mm-hmm.
same thing, again, she'll leave some type of monetary value there, but then it's a full cleanse.
Okay, I was going to say, I keep stones from all of my travels and journeys.
If she feels a particular way, there's no reason for her to be scared, but some people associate certain things with,
Yeah.
you receive a gift or you receive something, you're like, okay, this is cursed, I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So if you have that urge and nothing will clear that urge where you feel anxious about it, by all means, get rid of it. I don't have that, you know what I mean?
After I get the rocks out of my house, she just clarified.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after you get the rocks out of your house, you will cleanse yourself. If you strongly believe that it is cursed, you will cleanse yourself and you will cleanse your home.
Okay.
I will
Cool.
cleanse the home first and then yourself so you don't reinfect whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Cool.
mhm.
Now, have you dealt with elementals at all? Elemental spirits?
clarify a little bit?
More fae, things like that.
No.
Okay.
Nope. My favorite's like, it's just, I'm really comfortable with the dark ones, like I said, but I just like things done quickly. Some people, and it's not necessarily dark where it's just hurtful to people, because you can use it to heal as well. I use that a lot too. When people have certain illnesses, you can use those spirits also to remove illnesses out of people. So it's not necessarily bad, it's just where my comfort zone is.
You said dark spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yes.
there a difference? Well, I mean, is there a difference between dark and
light?
spirits? Do you?
It's just a frequency, really.
Uh-huh.
So,
Christina says thank you. So home first?
yes, please.
Okay.
And I recommend, some people prefer sage, I recommend Palo Santo and Dragon's Blood, just because of the level of frequency.
Okay.
Yes, it's just a frequency level. So, like, for example, Pampajira is one of the spirits I work with. She's a gypsy also. She's in Portugal, Cuba, and Bosnia. Like, that's kind of where she was actually an actual person that lived, but that's kind of where people use her mostly. And she's considered a dark spirit as well, but she does a lot of positive stuff. It just depends on the level of frequency that they dwell in.
Okay.
That's all.
Cool.
Questions, comments, concerns? No? I mean, there's like so much, I don't even know what to get into next. Do you guys do dolls here, like voodoo dolls, puppets? Do you
Heard about it, but go ahead and you talk a little bit about it, because, yeah.
Okay. Are you guys familiar with what those are?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you always see on TV freaking voodoo doll with pins in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, first of all, those generally never look like it, okay? In real life, it just doesn't. They can be used to heal people, they can be used to heal yourself. You can make one of yourself to impact certain things like emotional issues, healing, bringing money to yourself. Or you can use it for a person. You can use it for good and bad. Everything can be used for good and bad, okay? There's several ways that those dolls can be made. You can actually buy pre-made ones. I don't believe in anything pre-made. What I do, and I just happen to have this with me, this is Spanish moss. A lot of people like use this as a cursing agent. I don't. It's not necessarily bad. I use this to mix this with devil shoestring. Are you familiar with that? So devil shoestring, it basically looks like branches from a tree almost. And you can use those like to create like a cross, and then just stuff it with this, and wrap the doll, and just create the doll out of it. I use herbs depending on whatever herbs correlate with what I'm trying to do, whether those are healing herbs, monetary herbs, love herbs, depending on what the doll is going to serve. And then sometimes I'll put a picture in there, or the person's hair, or mine, or whatever the case may be. DNA always helps. I usually only use pictures in dire emergencies. DNA is always my way to go. And then once the doll is sealed, you always want to awaken the doll, I guess. You kind of charge it with candles first, and then you kind of speak, you name it, and you speak to it, and you run it over all the elements, you know, earth, water, fire, air, and awaken it like that.
Okay.
And you can also make dolls like out of just wax, like drippings of wax. You take a big candle and you just drip it into the shape of a human.
Oh, wow.
And name it. You can do it like that. What else? Of course, like I can't think of everything now. But that's like the main ones that I use, like that's the two ways that are quickest for me. And then the pins that you use, they do correlate to emotions, or if you try to heal the heart, you would put it there. It's not like, hey, I'm going to kill you. But that's not something that, you know, ideally you would use it for good things, right? You guys do good things to people.
Yes. Questions?
No? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else you want to say?
If y'all have any more questions, feel free to reach out anytime. You have my email address and my Facebook tag. And Instagram is LadyV712.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank y'all for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Vesna.